Hello everybody and welcome back to Blanche Fitness. It's Saturday and you know what that means. It's time for the weekend kickoff, our awesome strength and stamina focused bodyweight class. And I apologize if I'm complaining all morning, but I've had just a tickle in my nose since like 4 a.m. and it's really irritating. Good morning. Hello. Welcome. So yeah, I sound froggy as fuck. Ooh, here from the library, yay! I'll try not to swear then. But yes, it is definitely the time of year where the plants are just, clogging up the works. There's a fascinating thing that I've seen on the internet. I think it was a magazine article. So I'm more inclined to believe in its veracity, although I have not done follow-up research. But I've seen it in a couple of places about how allergy seasons have gotten worse because of a really weird form of, it's hard to call it misogyny, but anyway, urban planners apparently started planting exclusively male trees some decades ago. Oh no, it's misogyny. Fair enough. Because they thought it would be easier to clean up. Like female trees have like seed pods and stuff like that. And they were like, oh, this will make it easier to, we won't have to clean up stuff during that season. But all pollen bearing trees with nowhere for the pollen to go means now allergy seasons are worse because it just goes in our noses. Fun times. Hello, real-time McHeps, yay. Always exciting. It's a party this morning. An allergy-filled party. And then, of course, I'm going to another party outdoors. So, yep, this is just a nice preview for the rest of my day. But yes, so when you have a bad allergy season, you can blame misogyny in urban planning and maybe plant a few female trees around. I'm sure that the gender binary for trees is much more complicated than that, but you know what? I'm not an expert, so we're just gonna focus on what I do know, which is leading class. Oh my goodness. It is gorgeous though. I mean, it is absolutely gorgeous out. And it definitely, it's still in the low 80s, but it's cooled down from those couple of days that were low 90s, which is very nice. Although I hear that there are wildfires in Arizona, I believe. So, oh joy, that season has begun. Yeah, just keep an eye on air quality, my friends, especially if you're doing outdoor activities. We've talked about this before around heat and wanting to make sure that you have a handle on how hot it's going to be outside and how that may impact your workout plans. But air quality is also important. There were definitely a number of times last year where I was like, I'm not even going to go for a walk because it smells like a campfire outside. Fingers crossed, knock on wood, all that fun stuff, that it doesn't get as bad this year as it was last year, but still something for us to pay attention to. Oh man, we've made it to the end of the week, my friends, and not a bad week, just a very full week. And I'm looking forward to having a good chunk of time to myself this weekend, which will be really nice. And just getting to relax. And I would very deliberately not put anything on my calendar to be like, oh, here's an activity that I want to make sure I do on Saturday or Sunday. I'm like, no, I think I need to leave wide open space so that I can do whatever I want to, and if what I want to do is just play Mass Effect for the rest of the weekend, that's okay. Oh, I need to keep playing Mass Effect. It's been a little bit. But before we get there, this is the thing I do have on my calendar, which is the weekend kickoff, which is just, I love this class. I love this class so much. So if you are new to the stream, hi, welcome. This is the weekend kickoff. It's a bodyweight class, as most of my classes are. High intensity interval training, mostly Tabata or perpetual motion intervals. So some sort of a defined work interval mixed with some length or lack of rest interval. Although today's gonna be fun. I'm looking forward to today. But yeah, today we don't need any equipment. We just need our mats and ourselves. So let's do our pre-class checklist. Make sure you have your water. That's the other thing you need, I suppose, in whatever vessel you are using. Obviously, we're at home, so you can do whatever you want. You can have all of your water set out in like tiny tulip whiskey glasses across your floor, if that's how you want to do it. Or you can just go for giant gallon jugs. And I'm not going to blink an eye, because you know what? Whatever keeps you hydrated is a-okay with me. You've got your comfy clothes on, whatever that means to you. You've got your mat or mat-sized space on the floor. And if you use a fitness wearable, let's go ahead and turn those on to a high-intensity interval training setting. Woo, woo, woo. If your nose is stuffy, go ahead and just try and take care of that one more time. Yep, there we go. Oh, man. Yes, I do have a box of tissues off camera, just, to try and help myself. Hopefully this will clear up as we work out, right? That's how that works? Exercise clears up? No? Is that? Maybe I'm not a doctor. I don't know. All right, my lads. We're ready. We got our water. We've got I just rolled out of bed, and so I don't have enough brain space to be worried about how much energy this is going to take energy. We've got our mats, and I'd say it's time to do our warm-up. Hey! So, let me throw my already broken phone over the floor, because that's always a great way to start class, right? Yeah, my poor phone. I need to fix the screen, because it finally ended up with an injury that it could not handle. And, considering how many times I've dropped my phone, I'm amazed that it took this long. I'm grateful, but yeah, it cracked right over the selfie camera, so any attempts to take selfies is just like a dark mass. It was a vague outline of my face. All right, my friends. Let's do our warm-up. So everybody, did I turn this on? Nope. There we go. That would be useful. All right, now we can get started. I would have been very confused. So everybody on your mats, on your backs, 1 foot crossed over the opposite knee, and as soon as you hear that horn go off, we begin with hip rocks and bridges. Everything. I do at some point need to think about refreshing my workout clothing wardrobe, because everything I'm wearing today is just slightly too big for me, which is an annoying feeling. You want, and it's interesting. I don't really dig into this when we're doing our pre-class checklist and we're talking about, comfy clothes should be whatever that means to you. And that is absolutely true. On the flip side, you do want to make sure that you're wearing clothing that you don't have to fuss with while you're working out, because that can have unintended impacts on your form if you're constantly worried about your pants coming down, or your shirt flying over your head or something like that. So you do, you benefit from better fitting clothing that's not going to cause you to just try and keep fussing with it the whole time and like, oh God, I have to interrupt my my workout to try and pull myself together here. And that's the thing that I forget about a lot of the time until, you know, I dig really deep into my wardrobe and go, oh yeah, this is why I try not to wear these clothes too frequently, because I have to fuss with them the whole time, and that's really irritating. So maybe this summer we'll all get ourselves new exercise clothes as a treat, hey? I mean, my birthday's coming up, and that seems like a great time to get some good workout clothes. But yeah, so today we'll just be fussing away and grumping about it. Just a lot of weird little things that I'm going to be grumpy about today. Oh my goodness. And you know what? Exercise can help. I'm sure I will feel better by the end of class, because no matter what, no matter whether I'm blowing my nose the whole time or, you know, having to hike up my pants over and over again, I will still have achieved something very cool. And that is really awesome. And then I'll be able to go through the rest of my weekend being like, yeah, I achieved that. And that can be really helpful. So we all need those reminders that we can and we are achieving things, you know? It is just so important. It's important for us to be able to remind ourselves, and it's important for us to remind the people that we care about, you know? And obviously there are a lot of different ways to communicate that to people, and that's where you get into conversations about people's love languages and sort of communication patterns, and you know, what an action that says I love and appreciate you to me may not mean the same thing to you. And so having those conversations to better understand, you know, here's how I communicate X thing. Oh, well, here's how I communicate X thing. Okay, so what would be a good sort of meeting in the middle place for us to communicate more clearly with one another? Communication is such a fascinating and infuriating process. It is never as straightforward as we want it to be. It never is. And I can't remember if I've ever told this story, but a long time ago, I was taking a workshop at work on communication, and we did an exercise, a sort of demonstration exercise that I've never forgotten, where we got into pairs, and each pair sat back to back, and one person had a sheet of paper with a pattern on it. It was all rectangles arranged in a specific pattern. And the other person had a stack of index cards. And we went one pair at a time, and everyone else in the class would watch each pair as they went, and the person who had the design would try to describe how to set it up to the person with the index cards, and then the person with the index cards had to recreate the pattern. And it was so fascinating to watch, because you would see over and over again these points where you're like, oh, well, I understand exactly why the person who has the pattern described the orientation of that rectangle the way that they did. That makes perfect sense, given the information that I can see. And I also understand why the person who's creating the pattern with index cards interpreted those words in a totally different way. That absolutely makes sense. And so you could see in the pattern these places where, you know, one person was communicating very clearly and the other person was making a very understandable interpretation of what had been said, and then everything just goes off the rails. And I think about that a lot. And you know, we all have such different communication and processing styles. And you know, we like to talk about like neurotypical versus neurodivergent people, but the older I get, the more convinced I become that there isn't actually a neurotypical archetype. Just as with so many things, we've convinced ourselves that there is supposed to be. And we're all trying to shove ourselves into that box, and some people are better at doing that than others. But, you know, with every single person in your life, you have to put in this work. You have to learn how to communicate safely. You have to learn how to navigate those points where you're clearly not on the same page, even though you both think that you're speaking clearly. Yeah, it's intense. It's intense, but it's fascinating. Language is language is entirely made up. Its only point is communication. Its only point is for us to be able to make ourselves understood to the other people in the world. And, you know, as soon as we started coming up with more complex concepts that we wanted to discuss with each other, we needed to start coming up with more complex communication structures than just, you know, this is the whistle I make when I'm tired, and this is the whistle I make when I'm hungry, and this is the whistle I make when there's a predator who's about to leap out of the bushes at me. And, you know, communication is just never a straightforward process. Even with people who've known each other for ages, even with people who have known each other their whole lives, you still end up with these places where you're like, wow, we are not on the same page right now. We are not discussing the same thing. Both of us may feel like we are, but we definitely are not. All right, yeah, futs. Anyway, these are the Saturday morning musings, you know. It's early. I've not been awake for that long. This is exactly the time to muse about life, the universe, and everything. Yeah, I think so. While we're doing a workout, this is exactly the time to have these musings. And besides, it helps to keep your mind engaged and not necessarily focused on, oh God, I'm working out and it's 9 a.m. Not that I think that any of you are feeling that way. I'm certainly not. No. We're good. Look at that, I remembered to move into squats this time. Oh man. I do think about, and I love this warm-up sequence, and it would never go away completely, but I do think about creating at least one other warm-up sequence and bringing that, you know, maybe switching entirely over to it for a while, just because, you know, variation, we talk about variation as a really important component of keeping ourselves engaged and helping us to train more broadly and just increasing the enjoyment of exercise. You know, there are some activities that are just a very specific set of motions over and over again, and there's some activities that just come with a wide range of movement opportunities and possibilities. And as a dancer, I obviously have most of my experience in the latter camp. And my brain really enjoys variation as a way to keep it engaged and interested in what I'm doing. And I like having the same warm-up for all of my classes. I think that's a really important through line. It makes it a lot easier for people to try all of the classes and know that, you know, no matter what else might be different, they will know how the first, 10 to 16 minutes are going to be. And I definitely want to continue that. On the other hand, we've been doing this exact warm-up sequence for over a year now. And before that, I've been doing it when I was taking class and teaching class in person for like 3 or 4 years before that. This with one change. There was the exact warm-up that I learned when I started taking, it was called Cry in the Dojo at my former, at the rock gym that I taught at. And that's a long time to do the same warm-up sequence, So I've definitely been starting to feel a little bit tired of that particular sequence and a little bit like, I would really like to try something new. Maybe even just, it doesn't even have to be a lot of new activities, but even just switching up ordering, or maybe just make it a totally different sequence, I don't know. Anyway, all of this to say that I'm thinking about making a new warm-up sequence and integrating it into class. Now, what the heck? There's just so much on this mat. I really need to clean it. Oh man, that's one of the things about working out at home is you have no one to blame for the state of your exercise area but yourself. Like, I can't complain to the manager. I am the manager here. So I just have to get right with that, or actually, clean my yoga mat, which apparently is not something I've convinced myself to do yet. We'll see. We'll see how long it takes me to finally get to that place. Woo! All right. Coming towards the end of our warm-up. Just one more thing to do after our kick-throughs. Really, I just want to find a different warm-up exercise from kick-throughs, which are so intense. I'm sure that most of you would not mind if we occasionally did a warm-up sequence that did not include kick-throughs. If you would mind, if you're like, no, I'm really invested in that exercise in our warm-ups, then please let me know. I certainly would not want to get in the way of that experience. But otherwise, it would be nice to have some new exercises. All right. Good job, everybody. Whoop. There we go. All right. Start taking your rest. I will be right back, my friends. All right, sorry about that. So, good morning. I bet you can guess what we're gonna start with, because you know how much I love to do this. We're gonna do some toe squats, and it's gonna be a big one. So this is gonna be one of those days where I tell you to pick a number between 150 and 300, and we are going to we're gonna do that number of toe squats, and you are gonna have 12 minutes is what I'm gonna give us to complete your set, and then we have our 2-minute rest after that. So if you need to keep going, you can, just recognizing that you won't have as much rest at the end there. And toe squats, we know them, we love them. Feet hip width apart, backs straight up and down, starting to squat down until you can't go any farther, then letting your heels come off the ground, all the way down, and then all the way back up. And we're letting the heels come up and down naturally. We are not actively lifting them or shoving them back down on the ground, okay? All right, so everybody's gotten water. Everybody's on their mats, getting ready to go. I'm gonna have a timer going. So we'll have one horn midway through to let you know that we're midway through. You can do your toe squats in sets. Just make sure you're doing the same number of reps for each set, okay? And if you start with 20, then you're doing sets of 20 the whole time. If you start with 50, then you're doing sets of 50 the whole time, okay? So be honest with yourself, you know? There's that tendency to, at the beginning, be like, oh yeah, I can go forever, cool, I can totally make it to 50, and then you take that rest, and then you go back in, and you're like, oh God, I have to try and make it to 50 again. So it's exciting when you can do that, but if you're not there yet, be honest with yourself, okay? All right, everybody, on your mats, and you have that number in your head, and as soon as we hear the horn, we will be going. Yeah, and I know that counting while somebody is talking at you can be really annoying. So if you need to be able to concentrate a little bit better on counting the number of reps, then feel free to just turn down the volume. That's the nice thing about doing class like this, is you have that ability, you know. When we're doing an in-person class, there's no mute button for me. You have to just figure out how to count with that external stimuli going on. And from personal experience, I know that while it can absolutely be done, it also can be really frustrating. So yeah, we want to make sure that you're really able to focus in on the exercise. Obviously, turning down the volume can have negative impacts too, because if I start talking about form, you're gonna miss it, you know. So just weighing the pros and cons, I am totally fine with, all right? Absolutely fine. I feel like I am falling apart this morning. Like, the allergies are clearing up, but now I have like something in my sports bra is just like poking me, and I don't know what it is, but man, do I not appreciate the experience. So yeah, it's just, everybody has those mornings, yeah, where it just feels like a lot of really random stuff is going not wrong, but it's just slightly off kilter, I guess, you know? And sometimes those days can be way more frustrating than the actively bad days. Because it's like, there's nothing earth-shattering happening. It's just, you know, this weird, like, can't stop blowing my nose, and some weird tactile experience with my clothing, and like, I don't know, man. Life is a strange thing. All right, speaking of form, our big thing to remind ourselves of, and sooner rather than later while we're doing this, is that we want to always be in control of this movement. We do not want gravity to take control. Gravity wants to help. Gravity is on the sidelines going, yeah, put me in, coach. This is my moment. They're trying to get down to the floor. I want to help them. It's going to be great. But it's bad for your knees. It's not going to be great. So if you're doing this exercise and you're just sort of collapsing down, you'll get that little bounce like this, and that's just putting some really unhealthy pressures on our knees. Our knees are so important. They do so much work for us. So we need to, no matter how fast you're going, you should be in control of the motion the whole time. Never relaxing the muscles and just letting gravity move you through the exercise, okay? The muscles need to be engaged the whole time to protect you, okay? One of the things that can help remind gravity that it doesn't get to play this time is that core engagement, okay? That stabilizing muscle engagement. So it starts by helping us to just rein in the torso. So if I'm not engaging my core and my torso is like, I feel like going this way, as I get down and as I get into the balance, it is more likely that any even micro movements of the torso are going to drag me over, you know. Best case, I fall over and go, well, now I feel foolish. Worst case, I fall over and wrench something, and now I have an injury. So we start with engaging that core before we go anywhere. And then, it becomes really important as soon as the heels start to come up, because that's when we start going into the balance position. We're balancing on the balls of our feet, and our feet and our ankles are trying to control all of the weight that is balanced on top of them. So, woo! Yeah, see? I let go of my core and then lost the position. So having that core engaged helps to make sure that the torso is not going to drag you around anywhere. And it's also just a good reminder to keep the quads engaged throughout the descent so that gravity doesn't come in and take control. Lots of little things to dig in to better understand about how we move. Hey, we're halfway through. That's exciting. You know, and the more work we put into paying attention to what muscle groups are engaging in a given exercise, what their purpose, their focus is during that exercise, and the difference between having that muscle group participating and not. Like, the more that we work out, the more that we do these classes, just really trying to dig into that experience. And it teaches you more about movement, first of all, and it also helps you to get a lot of this information into subconscious processing. And we like that because it means that when we're going along and something starts to get out of whack with our form, we don't even have to consciously think about it. Our brain is going to go, you know, in
in the subconscious levels of processing, our brain's going to go, oh yeah, core should be engaged. And it's going to re-engage that core before we even realize consciously what was happening, okay? And that's not always going to happen, but the other side of that is we will start to notice more quickly when we are out of form. And when we notice more quickly, we can get back into form more quickly, yeah? Because that's the thing. It's like meditation. I'm not asking you to always be perfect in your form 100% of the time, because that is an unattainable goal, all right? That is a completely unachievable goal. What we do want to work towards, and what is achievable, is shortening the amount of time between starting to lose components of the form, noticing that we are, and getting back into the form correctly, okay? That's what our goal is. So I use the meditation example because, and I've only meditated a few times. It is not, I think, I am one of the few that I think meditation is not a particularly useful tool for. But I do appreciate this as a description. It's not about having no thoughts in your head the whole time, because again, unachievable goal. What you want is when you notice that you're starting to go, and follow a thought cloud, to pull yourself back more quickly and try to center back into present moment, right? And it's that same thought. The goal is just to notice more quickly so that you can correct more quickly. And that's exactly what we're talking about here, okay? So that, I like to remind you of that, because we are sentient creatures who are very good at being very hard on ourselves and expecting perfection 24/7 and just railing on ourselves when we don't get it. And perfect is the enemy of good, my friends. Perfect is an unattainable goal, first of all, and it is the enemy of good. And when we convince ourselves that something has to be perfect or nothing at all, we do ourselves such a huge disservice, and we close ourselves off to so many valuable experiences and skills, because we have convinced ourselves that if we're not great at something right off the bat, why even bother? And that's just silly. Like, you hear it, when somebody puts it that way, you're like, oh, of course that's silly. But in the moment, it can be a lot harder to remember how silly that is. So that's why I'm here to remind you. Yeah, we are not striving for perfection here. We are striving for good foundation, and we are striving to just basically be more observant, okay? And to notice what we're doing more quickly, and to be able to make those corrections more quickly, or to say, ooh, I need to take a step back from this activity more quickly, okay? That's our goal. All right, 30 seconds left. So hopefully you have made it to the end of your number. If you're still finishing out, that's totally fine. If you already finished, I hope you've been enjoying that rest, because nothing more satisfying than finishing well before the end of the timer and getting that rest. Yeah? All right. Woo! And make sure, stretch over the top of the toes, because that's a lot of crunchy, flexy activity. So we want to stretch out in the opposite direction. You can always do some quick calf stretches like that. Quick standing quad stretches. All the old favorites, right? And now it's water time. Okay. Good job, everybody. I hope everyone's cats are enjoying the workout as well. Because I know we got a lot of cat people here today. Oh my God, I got home yesterday from some errands, and there was an adorable like tabby kitty just sitting on my front steps. And like, I didn't get to pet the kitty, but they didn't just like sprint off when I showed up. They sort of ran down the steps and into the bushes, and then they were like staring at me, making eye contact as I went up the stairs. I was like, oh, you're so cute. I hope you have somewhere safe to go, or that I see you again, because you're so cute. Oh my goodness. All right. So, remember all that talk I was doing about variation? Well, today's not going to be a super varied class, because we are in fact going to do the same exercises. We're going to have 3 of them, and we're going to do first a 30-second perpetual motion set, then a 45-second perpetual motion set, and then a 1-minute perpetual motion set, okay? So, yeah, after all that, we're not actually going to be that varied today at all, but that's okay, because the other side of that coin is giving ourselves the ability to focus in on what we're doing and really put the thought into, okay, what does the form look like? What does it feel like when I perform this exercise correctly versus when I start losing little bits of the form, and how can I notice that more quickly? So, anyway, what are the exercises, you ask? Well, I'll tell you. We have got our wide squat to lunge. So, coming down into this nice wide position. Ooh, that feels fun. Right after toe squats. That felt fun. Arms to the sides, knees pulled over, straight over the feet. So if you can't do that with your feet turned out this wide, turn your feet in a little bit, okay? And then we're just going to turn one knee totally to the side. So now I'm in a double bent leg lunge, and I'm bringing that arm to meet the other arm, and then back to the center and to the other side, okay? We just go back and forth. So that's exercise 1. Wow, yeah, that doing that right after toe squats. Man, the captain is back, and he didn't skip leg day. All right, second exercise is push-ups, because I think push-ups are just, God, they're such a great exercise. Anyway, you can do any manner of push-ups. You can do push-ups, incline push-ups off the wall, off a piece of furniture. You can do our full plank push-ups. You can do from the knees. You can do half plank, half wave, or a full wave. You can mix and match, particularly as the sets get longer. You may need to drop to a different type of push-up, and that's fine. The only non-negotiables, making sure your shoulders are directly over your wrists, and keeping your elbows nice and tight to your sides the whole time that you're going down and coming back up. So not letting them fan out, okay? And then third exercise is going to be shrimps, because I love shrimps. They're just so fun. So, y'all know shrimps. We are moving back and forth along our mats by sort of taking this crunched position. So I've engaged and contracted my abdominals so that I can do a rocking motion like this, a really small boat rock. And then every time my shoulders come up, I move them to the side. Every time my hips come up, I move them to the side. and then shoulders unhipped. I get to the end of my mat, and I start going back in the opposite direction. So a lot of isolations. You have to be able to move the rib cage to the side without carrying everything else with it, which is a skill that not everybody has developed yet. So if you tend to find yourself just sort of turning in a circle on this one, then you can start with just the rocking motion and visualizing what you should be doing. And then as you get more comfortable in it, you can start to try the exercise itself, okay? All right, so starting with our 30-second set. Remember, wide squats, then push-ups, then shrimps. And we do not have rests in this, so starting on time becomes something very different from when we're doing tabatas, because we're not starting from a rest position. We are doing this exercise right up until the point when the horn goes. And so starting on time then becomes minimizing the amount of time that it takes me to get from the exercise I'm currently doing to the exercise that I need to begin doing, okay? So that is what we are focusing on for the rest of class, not making sure that we're starting the next exercise exactly when we hear the horn, because that is not possible for a perpetual motion class. Keeping in mind too that you don't necessarily want to follow what I'm doing in terms of minimizing the amount of time it takes you to move from exercise to exercise, because I have an additional factor that I have to include, which is making sure that I'm pointing correctly towards the camera. So sometimes I will take a really circuitous route to get to the next exercise. So figure out what works for you. Don't worry about what I'm doing, because frequently it is not going to meet the test of minimizing the amount of time between exercises. Sometimes it will, but frequently it won't, okay? All right, we're in our second round now, and 30 seconds. 30 seconds is great, it's not that long. The only reason that we feel it a little bit more is because we're used to our tabatas, which are 30 seconds total in terms of the entire interval, but 10 of those seconds usually are rest. So we're used to that, like only doing work for 20 seconds and then getting to rest for the remainder of the time. So if you're like, why does this feel so much longer than usual? That's the reason, because it is longer than usual. When your usual is 10 fewer seconds, this is going to have an impact, okay? And time has no meaning, and that can be really confusing, because we're like, 10 seconds doesn't feel like it's that much more time. It doesn't feel like it should be impacting me so much more, and yet, it really does seem to sometimes, okay? And that's okay. That is okay. Just move stably and deliberately from exercise to exercise. And remember too, I'm frequently focusing in on our ultimate performance goals, but it takes all of us time while I'm going to be talking about, starting on time and stopping on time as bare minimum components for class, I recognize too that some days we just do not have that capacity, and that's okay. We work towards it. The only component of the bare minimum that is non-negotiable every time, to the point where I would rather you stop moving than keep doing the exercise, is the form component, is doing the exercise correctly. That is our ground rule. That is the one non-negotiable. We want to do that exercise correctly, okay? And if we are not, then we need to make whatever adjustment we need to, or we need to stop doing the exercise, catch our breath for a little bit, and then start it again, or we need to modify to a totally different exercise or a different version of this exercise that we're able to maintain. But yeah, I would rather you give me 2 perfect reps of an exercise than 20 where your form is completely off, okay? Because I'm talking too much, I'm not drinking enough water. Because if you're doing an entire set and you're not doing them correctly, you're training your body incorrectly. You're training your body in bad form. And that's what your body's going to default to when you get tired, when you stop paying attention. And that's going to set you up to be more prone to injury. And we don't want that, right? We want to be able to work out for as much of our lives as possible. All right, my friends, we are doing the same 3 exercises again, now with new and improved 45-second work intervals. So it's going to take us a little longer, so everybody back on your mats. And as soon as you hear that horn, we are going. So we've just added 15 seconds onto our work intervals. So we have to maintain the exercise for 15 additional seconds. And yeah, that is going to have an impact. Absolutely. So just remember to breathe and remember to focus in on that form. Really feel the fact that this is an old and sad mat when I'm doing this particular exercise. And this is our, second total timer through these exercises. And I want you to really check in on your form. Make sure that you are still keeping those shoulders directly over the wrists. Make sure that you're still keeping the elbows right in by the sides. Trying to maintain that nice long line of the body. Even if you have your knees on the ground, you see I still am maintaining that long line, okay? And that is what we want to do. And then for our shrimps, making sure that we still have that core engagement. Before we do anything else, we've got that rounding, that contraction in our abdominals, and that we're moving along the mat. Remember that your hips can travel a lot further than your shoulders can. So you need to hold them back from going the full distance. Otherwise, you end up turning yourself in a circle because you're like a rowboat that's missing an oar. And that's not our goal. That is not our goal. So always make sure when you're doing those shrimps to hold back the distance that your hips are traveling laterally so that they keep in line with the distance that your rib cage is able to travel, okay? All right. set 2. And this is an intense day, you know, because we have a lot of exercises that we're just pouring a lot of focused attention into. We started with 150 to 300 toe squats. That is some focused attention, my friends, and it's intense. So I want you to really give yourself permission to not worry about making PRs today if you don't feel like that is a viable goal. You know, just focusing in on that form and on trying to keep moving for the entire timer. Because that perpetual motion sets, much like perpetual motion class, that's one of the additional goals. We add on a goal to our perpetual motion sets, which is to keep moving through the whole timer, to always either be performing an exercise or moving quickly into place to start the next exercise. And that requires something very different from us than our tabatas, where we're sprinting basically, you know, and we may be doing a longer interval, but then we get some rest. So you have to shift how you're approaching your overall energy consumption with our perpetual motion sets, and you have to recognize that you're going to be dealing with a lot more fatigue because your muscles are not getting any time to chill, right? All right, we are back to our last time through these exercises on this timer length. Make sure when you're turning that knee in, the hips are coming all the way. They should be facing directly forward, not still opened out at all. Okay, so all the way, we got those headlights. Then we open back to the center, and then all the way to the other side. All right, yeah. And again, it's good to be aware when you are feeling that fatigue in your muscles so that you can recognize that maybe in order to achieve the greater amount of time that you're working out, you need to pull back a little bit on the overall power that you're putting into the exercise. And there are lots of those sort of balancing acts that we do when we're working out, you know. I feel like there's this image that a lot of us get that in order to improve our performance, we have to just continually be pushing everything up, be pushing the number of reps up, and the number of sets up, and the amount of weight up, and, you know, the amount of power up. And that is, improvement is not so straight of a line, okay? So what you want to be doing is patting yourself on the back. What you want to be doing is saying, okay, you know, if we were doing free weights or something, as an example, all right, I want to start upping the amount of weight that I can use for these exercises. And in order to do that, I am going to initially ramp back the number of reps that I'm doing so that I can get used to this amount of weight. I can make sure that I'm still performing the exercise correctly, and then I can build back towards the previous number of reps I was doing, and then I can maybe up that amount of reps. But you don't want to increase the challenge rating of multiple factors without recognizing how that interplay is going to look. So yeah, there are so many factors that we can adjust to start upping that challenge rating and improving our performance by whatever metric we're using, which is awesome. Also, we need to recognize that sometimes pushing more intensely in one metric means that we need to dial it back in another one, okay? All right, my friends, one more set, and this is going to be the intense one. This is going to be 1 minute intervals. Oh boy, howdy, all right? Still perpetual motion, still those same 3 exercises. So we are going to be really focusing in. We're going to be cheering ourselves on, and we are going to be really excited when we hit the stretching portion of class, yeah? I know I am. All right, so everybody on your mats, my friends, now is the time. Now is the time for us to go through these exercises one last time. So starting with our wide squats, here we go. And this gives us plenty of time to really focus in on form. So we're trying to keep that squat position as low as possible. It's not necessarily going to be all the way down there. And you are obviously sort of coming up a little bit to come back down into that lunge. So it's not the same as, say, the wide squat in our warm-up, but you still want a pretty deep position. And when we come to the lunge, you want to make sure that your front knee is not pushing past your toes, okay? So you want that shin to be perpendicular to the floor as much as possible. Alrighty? Woof. Man, my legs are definitely feeling some things, my friends. How about yours? Good grief. All right, and then our push-ups. I love push-ups because for whatever reason, they still feel like such a challenging exercise for me and for my muscles. And that is a really cool experience. I am still improving my performance in them. Even now, several years after I started doing this professionally, and even more years since I started taking this class, I'm still finding that this exercise really challenges me, and I like that. It's interesting because there are some exercises that are challenging to us that are also really frustrating, and I certainly have plenty of those. And for whatever reason, push-ups are not one of them, even though I am still really slowly making my way towards being able to maintain plank push-ups for a longer period of time. Push-ups are still an exercise that I really enjoy doing. I enjoy them more now that I've done so much work to strengthen my shoulders. That's really helped. But yeah, so I hope that you also have some of those exercises, and as we've talked about before too, if you have exercises that really frustrate you when you do them, that is probably telling you that there is a muscle group or a joint that you could really focus some attention on in terms of strengthening and stabilizing. And that will in turn help to make some of those exercises a lot easier. So, you know, for me, all y'all have taken class with me for a while, know exactly what my, you know, grouping of exercises are that have always challenged me. It's anything that required a lot of strength and stability in my shoulders. And I just didn't have that built out. But, you know, everybody is different. So for you, it might be having that balance in the legs, or you know, something to do with your tricep strength, or some, you know, all sorts of possibilities. All sorts of possibilities, my friends. And again, that's why we want to learn more about what muscle groups we feel working when we're doing an exercise, and learn more about, okay, does it feel like, you know, they're really struggling? Because if that's the case, then maybe I need to put some work into strengthening that area, you know? And that, now, that's always a good thing to learn. That's always a good thing to figure out. It's one of the things that I do regret about not teaching in person, is not being able to have that dialogue with people. But y'all know that if you have questions, you know, throw them into chat. Absolutely. I'll answer what I can. I'll research what I can't. And yeah, we're here. We're here to work out and to take care of ourselves from a safety perspective, from a health perspective. We want to be doing this when we're 80, damn it. And we absolutely can be. But the way we get there is we start here by focusing in on form and reminding ourselves that form is a non-negotiable, rest is a non-negotiable, and that we are not competing against anybody. We are here to have exercise as a tool in our toolbox. All right, last time through, oh my goodness gracious. So here we are. We can dig in, find those last pockets of energy, and say, okay, time to really get that going. How's your core engagement on this exercise? Again, there are very few exercises that are not benefited by core engagement. You know, we're doing a lot of moving around. We're doing a lot of rotating, so the obliques are going to be really useful for that. You know, turning that knee back out. I can feel how that engages some of my lower abdominals and my obliques. So check in. Oh, this mat. Oh, this mat's causing me grief today. Ugh. Okay. Man. Woo. Yeah. And remembering again, because this is the end, and we do want to push all that remaining energy out, and we want to challenge ourselves as best we can, and we also want to keep reminding ourselves that if we need to stop, if we're not able to maintain the form, then we do that. Even here, even at the end. Okay? Really focus in. Nice big exhalations. Exhale on the effort, right? We talk about that a lot. Yeah. And now, last but not least, our shrimps. Check in on those abdominals. Make sure they are still contracted so that you've got that rocking motion. You've got the rounding in your lower back. You're not turning yourself in a circle like a rowboat with only one oar. You are, in fact, able to move side to side along the mat, or just maintain this small boat rock. Really constantly checking in, making sure those abdominals are still doing the work, because that is the main purpose of this exercise. And if you're not feeling your abs, then you're probably not actually engaging them. Oh, woo! Good job, everybody. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, what a class. What a class. Okay, we're already on our mats. Let's stretch out the quads, because dang, toe squats into the wide leg squat is no joke. You would think that I wasn't the one who designed this class, considering how surprised I was at that intensity. All right, so we're gonna stretch out our quads. So for the working leg, the leg that we're gonna stretch, we wanna fold it, heel to the outside of the hip, but pulled in as close as possible. The other knee is just opening, falling open against the floor. It's not really doing anything, okay? And now we will start to lower our torsos back only as far as we need to get that nice, intense stretch in the quad. Slowly, so that we don't accidentally activate the quad and cause it to try to contract. You can go all the way down here if you have that flexibility, but be honest with yourself. And remember that you do not need to come all the way down here if you're not there yet. You'll know when you've hit the point where that stretch is enough stretch, okay? And now we're going to take 4 deep breaths here. On each inhale, visualizing the oxygen going to wherever you're feeling the most intensity of sensation. On each exhale, trying to settle a little more deeply into your stretch. Here we go. That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. And 4. Now we slowly and carefully make our way back up to seated. Don't move this leg under its own steam. One hand to the knee, one hand to the ankle. Manually lift, rotate, and lower in front of you. And bring the other leg to meet it. Shake out those knees. Flex the feet. And point. And flex. And point. Circle the ankles in one direction. And then the other direction. And other side. Same thing, same positioning notes. Remember, again, we're not symmetrical creatures, so you may be able to go down as far as you did on the first side. You may be able to go down farther, or you may not be able to go down as far. And any of those are totally fine, okay? This is not a competition between your right side and your left side. And again, once we get to wherever we can get to, we're going to take our 4 deep breaths, inhaling and sending the oxygen to where we're feeling that intensity, exhaling and settling a little more deeply into the stretch. Here we go. That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. And 4. And slowly and carefully back up to seated. One hand to the knee, one hand to the ankle. Manually lift, rotate, lower. Bring the other leg to meet it. Shake out those knees. Flex the feet. And point. And flex. And point. Circle the ankles in one direction. And then the other direction. All right. Let's do a quick hamstring stretch here while our legs are extended out in front of us. So we're just going to reach forward, fold over, and you can try and get as close to the thighs as you can. You want to still maintain the relaxed state, so try not to be clenching those legs. All right. And we're just going to take 4 deep breaths here. Here we go. That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. And 4. Round back up. All right, now let's do a quick twist. All right, so let's lie back on our backs. First, bring both knees into the chest. Wrap your arms around them so you can hug them in your chest as close as possible. Maybe do a little bit of a rock to help massage the lower back. And then we're going to keep one knee into the chest. The other leg is going to straighten and extend along the floor. We're going to take that knee across the body so we have a nice twist in the spine. I want your shoulders to stay flat on the floor, okay? And that can be hard for the back shoulder. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn the head away from this knee and look back towards that other hand. That's going to help us keep the shoulder flat on the floor. And let's take those 4 deep breaths here. Here we go. That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. And 4. Look back up towards the ceiling. Bring that knee back into your chest, other knee to beat it. Wrap those arms around them. Rock back and forth. And other side. So extend that other leg along the floor. Bring that knee across the body. Nice big twist. Maybe you get a little home chiropractic adjustment in the spine. We want to look away from the knee to help keep the shoulders flat on the floor. And now we're going to take our 4 deep breaths here. Here we go. That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. And 4. Look back up towards the ceiling. Bring that knee in, other knee to match. Rock back and forth. And I'd say that's good. All right. Good job, everybody. Good class, man. That was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun, yeah? Woo, woo, woo. Oh my goodness. And just such a good way to start a Saturday. See, I told you I'd feel better by the end of class. This all cleared up. This stopped, my clothing stopped poking at me. Like, exercise is magical. Man, it is so magical. I hope you all saw my exercise is black magic post on on social media. A friend sent it to me. They were like, I thought of you specifically. And I was like, I'm so glad, because it was like exercise is a type of black magic. You start out in it and it drains you of your energy, but the more you dabble, the more powerful you become. And that's what we're doing, my friends. We are becoming more powerful. And sometimes it feels a little more draining, and that's okay. That is absolutely okay. That's our body adjusting to increased strength asks, increased power asks. And sometimes it takes us a little bit longer than we wanted to, but man, it feels so good when you're like, oh, I have become more powerful than you could possibly imagine. So yes, basically we're using the force, right? That was the conclusion. Is that the conclusion? I don't know, but you know what I do know is that I'm looking forward to post-class shower today before I go sit outdoors and hopefully don't experience a return of the stuffiness. So my friends, this was the last class of our broadcast week. We will return next week with our usual schedule. So Tuesdays at 5:30, forgive my end card for still being wrong, 5:30 on Tuesday, 5:30 p.m. Mountain Time is Perpetual Motion, the class where we never stop moving. Then Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. is Jump Around, our weekly cardio class. Friday at 5 p.m. is Functional Home Fitness, where we do weight training using objects you can find around the house. And that brings us all the way back around to Saturday morning at 9 a.m. with the weekend kickoff. So I hope to see you at any or all of those classes. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. All those handles will be in my end cards, but they are all variations on Blanche Case Fitness. My YouTube channel is where I upload all the VODs from these streams, so you never have to miss a class, even if you can't make the live cast. So definitely head over there and subscribe. If you want to help support me financially in making these streams, I have a Coffee account for one-time donations, or you can subscribe to this channel if you're able to support a little more long-term. Either way, your support is always very much appreciated. And if you want to help me keep growing this channel and this community, then please tell your friends, loved ones, coworkers, anyone looking for an awesome fitness class. I stream 4 days a week. We have a great community here, and the more the merrier. Yeah, ooh, my arms are tired. All right, my friends, make sure to finish your water. I've done a very bad job of hydrating myself during this class, so don't be like me. Fitness friend says, remember to hydrate. Make sure to get some food, start replenishing those glycogen stores. Take that celebratory post-workout shower, my friends, and I will see you all back here again on Tuesday. Mwah! Have a great day.